Hi, Sparkles. Welcome back to Intuitive Wisdom. This is episode 204, and it's truly magical. Yes, I'm biased, but I am joined by visionary leader and author Julie Wignall for a conversation on how to cultivate your intuition and harness your light in a world that needs it. Julie's path has taken her through national politics, international business, the arts, and environmental conservation. She's the author of The Extraordinary Power of Fireflies, a multi-award-winning book that highlights inspiring stories of people who break barriers and light the way forward. In our conversation, Julie shares how trusting your intuition strengthens it like a muscle, why roadblocks aren't the universe telling you to stop, but an invitation to pivot, and how each of us can glow in our own extraordinary way. We talk about the illusion of being ordinary, how we are all beings of energy and light, and why supportive environments and communities matter so deeply for our growth. Julie also invites us to open ourselves to wonder, like the magic of fireflies, and to remember that true change starts within. And if someone ever says your light is too bright, just hand them a pair of sunglasses. That's one of my favorite lines. If you listen to the end, she says it. I know you're going to feel inspired to embrace your own inner firefly after this one. Here we go. Welcome to Intuitive Wisdom, a space where insight meets energy and intuition leads the way. I'm K. Margaret Solorio, author, Angel Reiki Master, biotech graduate, and a guide for those seeking alignment in their home and life. Whether you're navigating change, clearing emotional clutter, or simply craving clarity, Intuitive Wisdom invites you to slow down, tune in, and rise into your authentic self. New episodes weekly. Come home to your own knowing. Okay, Sparkles, before we get to the magical interview with Julie, I have a few quick announcements for you. First, a shout out to Anka. She left this beautiful review of her home frequency reset service. Feel more aligned, support, and at peace. I recently had the beautiful experience of a home frequency reset with K. Margaret, and it felt so good. Right after the reading and cleansing, I felt a temporary dip in energy, but soon after, the shift became so uplifting and nourishing. Her reading helped me connect with my home on a much deeper level. The way she identified the chakras of the house and offered guidance for each room was insightful and very precious. It created a special bond between me and my space. I now feel more aligned, supported, and at peace in my home, and I'm so grateful for this unique experience. Thank you so much, Anka. I appreciate you. And my question for you is, have you tried my free quiz yet? It's called Is Your Home Supporting Your Expansion? So if you're curious about more this home energy work, it only takes a few minutes and you get some clear insights on how your space may be shaping your energy and where you can start to shift things. Find that at deliciousease.com/quiz. And if your space feels heavy or stuck or just a little off, my home frequency reset is a remote, intuitive, energetic refresh designed to bring your home back in harmony with you. It's perfect if you're craving a fresh start or a deeper alignment with your vision. And last but not least, my book, Make Ease Your Vibe, is now available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions. It's packed with practical strategies for mindset, time, and energy. Plus, you get access to exclusive chapter bonuses on my website, deliciousease.com. All right, let's get to the interview. Great. Well, Julie, welcome again. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm excited. I've never gotten to speak to you in person, but just based on what I've read, I was saying earlier, I think you do everything and it's going to be extraordinary. So
Thanks.
I'm very
But not
excited.
necessarily everything well. It just means I put my fingers into a little bit of everything.
I'm sure you're being humble and that you do everything well, but it gives you a really unique perspective. So I'm looking forward to that. You may know on this podcast, I like to explore the magic that happens when you hear and learn to trust your intuitive wisdom. So I was curious for you, what's one of the greatest insights you've received from your intuitive wisdom and acted on?
Oh, it keeps going. And every day, you know what? I explain that when you work on trusting your instincts and your inner wisdom, it's like a muscle and it gets stronger and stronger and you get more insights and more insights. Um, I just did an amazing trip to New Mexico based on insights of working with an indigenous Native American tribe there. And I was so thankful. It's like, but you question yourself all the way through. You
Yes.
go, okay, I need to listen to this, but should I be listening to this? And should I go? And you quit. And you go, yes, this was like such an important thing that I just listened to. And for me, I teach that when you hit roadblocks, there's always another way. But you can't find that way unless you sit down and you listen. And that is part of cultivating our intuition. Um, let me backtrack for a minute because you were talking about magic. That was the whole reason behind the cover of my book, The Extraordinary Power of Fireflies, because I will constantly meet people who go, oh, I remember seeing fireflies when I was little growing up at sunset in my backyard. Even people who've never seen them go, oh, I've heard about them. And this just sounds, but what is the word everybody uses about them? They're magical, absolutely magical. And that's the whole concept of the book, is to kind of remind us of the magic that we each have inside of us, to connect us back to that child of 6 or 7 or 8 years old that still connected with the magic of the universe, that's still connected to the special things of nature, and knew that miracles and magic were everywhere. It's just that we grew up and we've got a culture, like so many other cultures, that say, oh no, now it's time for you to grow up
Mhm.
and leave
And
all
forget the
that
magic.
behind. And no, we need to get back in touch with that too. And there's a slew of fireflies on the front of the book because there are two places in the world, one being in the Smoky Mountains here in the United States, and there's another in Malaysia, where fireflies flash their lights in synchronicity. So imagine, and it's a different species than the ones that people grow up with and saw in their backyards. They don't even come out until maybe 10:30 at night. But when I tell you, the forest can be as dark as possible, and they light up in the hundreds at the same time and flash that light to others. And the entire forest, it becomes enchanted. And it's like, how can you at any age not believe in magic if you see all this around? And that's what we're seeing outside, but it comes from inside, and we've all got that inside. We just need to start learning to listen.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, excuse me. I love that. I love that when you said your intuition reminds you that there are multiple ways to do things. I think that's really beautiful because a lot of times we narrow ourselves and think, oh, I really want this and this is the way to get it. And we forget, like you said, there are multiple ways to get to what you want, and what you want might be even greater when you get there. So that's a
yes,
beautiful reminder.
and I have to tell you, I'm going through this actually right now because we're all still learning, we're all still growing. Part of what I'm working on at the moment, and I coach and I teach and I do workshops and I do consulting, but part of what I'm working on right now is I want to take a lot of what I've written about and almost put it to work today in a new way. And I'm setting up right now an entire new state chapter for the United Nations Association, and with a vision and a concept of bringing different groups together. I think that everybody is feeling very polarized today, and it's to say, let's focus on building community. And, you can scream about what's going on in other parts of the world, and understandably so. But let's look at us here, right here, and right now. We don't have bombs falling on our homes. Um, Hopefully most of us are not starving or looking for food. So if we want the rest of the world too to come and step in pace and have a better, brighter future, we need to model it. So the concept is, let's build a community of everyone that's inclusive, that looks at, all these different aspects, all the different aspects of magic. And, you have to remember too, you can believe all this, you can live it, you can work on it, but life still happens. And so here, this was my vision, and we're going to pull everyone in. And I had so many people who said, this sounds wonderful. Well, the first thing that you have to do is set up your core group of a board. And what happened is we were trying to set up um, an ecological system, and instead it became an ego-based system where all of a sudden everybody came in with their own needs and their own wants. And I sat back and said, you know what? If we can't do this on a local basis, on a community basis, how in the world do we expect anyone else to be able to do that? And I thought, you know what? These are people who are still working on things that are modes that are outdated. And if I allow them to railroad this whole system, and I have to tell you, originally I stopped and I went, well, I obviously can't do it. This is my block, right? Because we all have these blocks. And it's like, wait a minute. If I'm here to say that there's always another way to do something, then I have to show this with this. So I sat down, and you talk about intuition, and what's the biggest like download that I've gotten right now? It is just recent. It's just to say, you know what? If you want to move past old paradigms, you can't feed into this to say, I need this person because they're politically connected, and I need this person because they're connected to
Mm-hmm.
something else. This has to be open to if that's my vision, I have to share that vision. So I've completely done a 180 and said, I'm going to do an open meeting for the entire community so that those who feel any kind of kinship will show up. And then it's my turn to share my vision. Completely different way to work on things but this is true with every project, everything that we think that we want and we desire. And I have clients all the time that go, I did everything I was supposed to do and I worked harder than everybody else and I'm not sleeping and it's not working. And and most people, I think the biggest takeaway is that they start by saying, this must be the universe's way of saying that I'm not meant to do this.
No, no.
It's like, no, this is the universe's way of telling you, pivot and knock on another door because there's something that's even bigger that you're not aware of, that you're not thinking. There's a whole world out there. There's always another door. There's always another way to move forward. There's always another way to go around. And I
That's
keep
amazing.
working on that. And the end of my book, I just told you that there are these synchronous fireflies and they sound wonderful. So here I am, I write this book and I've included amazing people around the world and it's finally done and you're celebrating. And I actually added a final epilogue because when it was done, I said, I want to go see these fireflies. I'm writing about fireflies. I grew up with fireflies, but these synchronous fireflies that look so amazing. I've never seen them. So I learned that in the Smoky Mountains, there is a lottery. And it cost $1. And I said, well, of course, I'll put in for the lottery. And of course, because what do we always teach everybody to? You have to start working at being aligned within yourself. Oh, I'm aligned within myself and I've just finished this book. I'm going to put in for the lottery. And of course, I'm going to be the one to win this lottery and get in to go see them. They let in 100 people every night for a period of a week. And of course, it's meant to be. The stars are there. I had no idea that there are 29,000 people that put in for this lottery every
Oh my
year
goodness.
from around the world. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Well, I didn't win the lottery. And oh my gosh. So, and I understand when people say, oh, that's the universe's sign of saying, nope, you're not supposed to go. No, it's the universe's sign of saying you've got to pivot. And I wrote this and I added this whole story in my book because it's like you need to know, even once we know this, we have to keep reminding ourselves, and we
Yeah.
keep learning along the way. And I was devastated. How could I not win this lottery? I've written the book and everything is there. And I walked around miserable, and I was on Facebook, and somehow, and I was scrolling and playing something with fireflies, and I found a group of photographers. Now, my background is in science, so I'm not thinking of photographers who really kind of specialize in taking pictures of fireflies. Oh, well,
Wow.
this is a great group to complain to, right? Well, I tried to get in and I did the lottery, and so how are you guys doing these pictures of fireflies? And I preface this by saying I have a background in science. It doesn't always mean that that sinks into my head. And this guy said, Julie, they close the park for 1 week every year for these people who win the lottery. Do you think that they send an email out to fireflies and tell them, don't shine the week before and don't shine the week after? He said, jump on our boat, do what we all do. We all schedule our photography shoots for either before the park is closed or after
Mm.
it's done. And I went, hello, wake up. And so we went on an adventure to go find these fireflies, and people gave me like 4 or 5 different spots, which I figured these would be backups so I could try looking for fireflies in every one of these spots. Although the place where everybody tries to get in for the lottery is the premier spot. And I tried a couple of other spots, and every place I went, there would be a park ranger that would say, I'm sorry, but we've got bears in the area. No one's going out looking for fireflies. And well, better safe than sorry, right?
Mhm.
So I guess we won't look for the fireflies. So I finally get to the spot where people who have won the lottery will be, and stop off in the ranger station. And I'm asking about this. And I have this park ranger who says, oh, but you missed it. That was last week. And I was like, no, I still want to go to the spot where the fireflies are. And he says, well, you need to know there's been a bear in the area, and it's probably not the safest thing to do. And I was there with my husband and my daughter, and we stopped at an overlook. And I'm standing there going, what do I do next? And sometimes intuition takes hold, and sometimes the universe just provides helpers. There was a guy in shorts and a t-shirt and no shoes who was trying to make a cell phone call and sitting at the side of his car. And he said to us, hey, do you guys want a family picture? And I said, that's really sweet, but we're not like in the best of moods right now for a family picture. We start talking to this guy. He is a park ranger. And he said,
He lives in the park.
he lives in the park. He said, I come here to try to call my girlfriend because this is the only place I get cell service. And I said, we came all the way across country. We've been trying to see the fireflies, and here we are, but they're telling us that there's a bear that's in the area. And he said, oh, yeah, there was a bear in the area. We tranquilized him last night and we moved him. So he's
Oh,
known
wow.
around this place. And he said, trust me, go out, and they're amazing.
Yay.
So if I had listened and went, oh, I didn't win the lottery, I'm not looking for different ways to get out there, I would have never had the experience. And the ultimate, which I included in my final story, was going out on the path, because you don't have to go like deep into the forest to see these, going out on the path and seeing all these families and couples, and everybody's waiting for the fireflies, but everybody's also waiting just until the sun sets. And then I keep hearing, well, I guess they're not going to be out tonight, so let's go have dinner. And they all left and they missed it. And it's
Oh,
like, how many times do you have someone who's so close to having everything that they want, their dreams come true, but they go, nope, that's it. Let's go for dinner. Let's go do something else. And it's like you were so close, but and it was there. And that's the concept too of, not only do you have to shift gears and look for different ways, listen to your intuition, but don't give up and keep
yeah.
going. for it.
and keep going.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. I think I studied, I went to college just north of there in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I feel like when I was a teenager, we were out hiking in the woods one night to see fireflies, and I saw that synchronicity too. But I don't remember like a swarm. I just remember they were just everywhere in the woods.
Yes, and it sparkles and it lights up. And I didn't even know that you see them all throughout the trees, but then there are also a species of fireflies called blue ghosts. And
Red and
they
blue.
stay close to the ground. They look like little landing strips. And
Oh,
so it's amazing. You're like all around you, it's like blue, and then as it comes up, it starts twinkling and greens and yellows, and
that's amazing.
it really is
Wow.
amazing.
Well, I loved also in your story of community that it really starts with us. And it, instead of, even if you want to change the world, you do that by being an example. And you wrote in the introduction of your book that being a human firefly, that being ordinary is an illusion. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Because I believe that not any of us are ordinary. I'm not sure what ordinary even is. And again, well, there's a lot of enculturation that we have in terms of our society. And I say this with 40 years of studying Jungian psychology, to take a look at that in terms of what we believe and what we don't believe. And one of the biggest factors that I believe keeps people from doing and accomplishing what they're looking to accomplish in their lives, whether it's through relationships or love or career or whatever it is fear and an internal belief that they are not good enough, they are not worthy, and they are not deserving. And when you talk about getting down to the internal, the crux of things, I actually have an exercise that I do a lot where it drives people crazy. And it's like, who am I? Write this down. Who am I? How do you answer that? And we all start with, oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm a this, and I'm a that. Okay, next question. Who am I? Oh, well, I already told you I was a lawyer, doctor. I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a this, I'm a that. And no, question three, who am I? And I go down this 5 times where they're like, what do you want me to say? And it's like, who are you at your core? Every single one of us, we are a being of light. Science has proved that we all glow. And, when people talk about auras and energy, science is just finally beginning to pick up and quantify what mystics have known for thousands of years, where people who are tuned in online already know that we glow. That's because we're at our core, we're energy, and we are beings of light. And being a being, that's an action word. We're not like sleeping or just sitting there doing nothing. We are beings. We're beings of light, action-oriented energy. And just the fact that we're here is an absolute miracle for every single individual that is walking the face of the planet. So if we start from that and say, I'm a being of light and I am deserving and I am worthwhile and I'm a miracle just by being here. Now we can add those layers back and without using the labels of I do this and I do that, and to start, what are my superpowers? Because we each come in with some innate talents and skills that can all be developed over time. And when we start building ourselves up from who we are to what we're bringing with us that's unique, we realize every single one of us is truly extraordinary and has something amazing to offer. I went to
Yeah.
school in Australia to study marine biology, and I had a mentor at one point who was a scientist who, in between Australia and Singapore, there are 45,000 islands. Some of these are known to have people who are very, very intuitive. They call it ESP, telepathy, whatever you want. And he said, I'm a scientist. I'm going to go live there for a year and a half, and I want to study this. And what he came back with was truly phenomenal. When you talk about following your intuition, these are people who their culture supports that. So, and each person does something differently. Maybe one person is a healer. There was someone, he said, in every village who was trained to go into the ocean and just listen. They would come back with weather reports. They would tell you if ships were on their way a week,
Wow.
2 weeks out. Everybody had this amazing ability. Oh, are they psychic? Are they? Ask them. And they'll say, we're not psychic. This is just my abilities, right? We treat this all as it's extra. It's
Hmm.
extrasensory perception. It's, oh, this is so unique. Somebody knows how to use telepathy or to become intuitive. They all allowed their own skills and their capabilities and those superpowers to rise to the surface. And they didn't see it as anything unusual or unique. So he came back and he said the two biggest things that he learned was, first of all, the importance of nature, because how in tune with nature everybody was. And the second was the power when you have a culture or a society that is accepting, supportive, and encouraging in terms of, yes, of course, you're going to listen to your intuition. I expect that you are, you know, maybe you have a vision, maybe you have a gut feel, maybe eh, something just resonates with you and you feel this is the way to go. It works differently for all of us. But imagine if we lived in a place where people supported that.
That
And
definitely makes you think.
yeah, and I actually believe that we're going through a world shift right now. And I think the part of the panic that a lot of people have is they see things falling apart. You can scream and yell about that, or you could say maybe things are falling apart because they're outdated or they weren't working. But in terms of what are you going to replace it with? That's where that community and each of us becomes so important to say, what do you want the future to look like? Because there's a lot of people screaming about a lot of things about what they want. Yeah, but what do you want? And this is no different than what I'm working on. I want a future where people can feel accepted, to be encouraged, to be inspired, to support one another, to be super inclusive, um, and to be helpful, where it doesn't always have to be political or what are you going to gain from this? They have different ways to look at things. Well, if I see that differently, that's not going to happen unless I shine my light brighter to say, this is my vision. Are there others that share this vision? Because let's work together. We don't have to agree on everything, but we do have to agree that there are certain code of values that we agree that, we respect each other, we accept each other, that we respect our differences, that we embrace our diversity, that we're all inclusive.
When did you become curious and start to work with metaphysics or put all these different things together? Was it when you were studying in Australia that you kind of got the clue that there might be more that connect? But I'm curious because I also studied science, biotechnology in college, and so there was, for me, listening to my professors, they always hit a point where they couldn't explain more. So I knew there was somewhere something more. But it feels like it has balanced my life to balance my training and learn these things. But I'm curious, as you as a scientist and a businesswoman, where that came in for you.
So I joke that this is my coming out of the closet book because the truth is, um, it's always resonated with me, always, since I was very, very little. The difference is that as I grew up and people said, oh, this is what was it? This is black magic. This is, you don't want to play with this. This is dangerous. And I went, oh, well then I don't want I don't want to deal with that. And I think that that's part of what spurred me on to go, oh, I can't have people think that I'm crazy and, I'm having these experiences because I intuitively knew like a number of things that scared the living daylights out of adults. And so I went, oh, well, I don't want to scare people. So
Mhm.
maybe if I go and I study science and then I can put labels on things and maybe they won't be so scared of me. Now, this comes from science mixed with Jungian psychology. I was adopted, and I was adopted at a time where it was not as acceptable as it is today. And it was something that was supposed to be hidden. And I grew up with a lot of people telling me I wasn't real,
Oh,
and
goodness.
which is kind of a crazy thing to deal with. But then you also go, oh, your family was so courageous in adopting you because you could be like a serial killer.
What?
So you start taking in this information that our culture, our society is feeding you, and then you go, oh, people don't like these intuitive insights that I'm having. I better stop having them because I'm going to scare everybody. They're going to think I'm an axe murderer and come after everybody in the middle of the night. So I hid a lot of it. And I didn't acknowledge a lot of it as I hit my later teenage years and started studying. I began studying esoteric philosophies, and I actually worked and still work. I call myself an apprentice to a mystic who actually has worked in very, very high circles with clairvoyance, with intuition, with insights, but nobody would talk about that. So I was like, I could never mention that because I'm a scientist and I have to sound like I'm really serious. And so we kind of put that away. Um, when I came back to the States, I was in Washington, D.C., and I worked as the head of the National Aquarium. It was a small aquarium within the Department of Commerce building. And you start meeting people within the government that are working on different top secret experiences and different things that you go, oh, you get it too. It resonates with you too, but it's like we're not allowed to talk about it. And the truth is, if you talk to anyone, I don't think I've ever met anyone who, if I said, have you ever had what you would classify like as a paranormal experience? Something that was out of the ordinary, was extraordinary. I don't think I've ever met anyone who said no. Everyone has had something. But what happens is as we get older and time goes by, we hide it. We say, oh, it must have been my imagination. That couldn't have really happened. And we change all of, our mind changes what we think we experienced and what we've done. I have a dear friend who's older who lost her daughter. And her daughter was huge in nature. And after she lost her daughter, whenever she went to a special place, there was that they had gone together, there was always a bird. There was always like this, a specific bird would show up by itself and just hang out, just to kind of say, hey, I'm here. And I said, don't you think that sounds like your daughter, just hanging to say, hey, I'm still here. I'm with you everywhere. And but her response to me was, yes, I feel that and I really want to believe it, but I'm afraid to believe it and I'm not supposed to
Hmm.
believe it because that's what everybody tells me. It's just in my imagination. So that goes back to imagine if we had a society that supported that more. Imagine with your background in science or mine, if we felt more comfortable to be able to say, hey, it's bigger than what you're teaching, it's bigger than what we know, and I ended up
Mhm.
doing a lot in terms of quantum physics only because, okay, you guys are finally beginning to catch up when I'm seeing these mystics have known for thousands of years. And at least knowing that there were a group of scientists who were able to say, oh, this we don't know. We we absolutely don't know. And in terms of dealing, and I try to explain this on a easier level, but when we talk today and we talk about thoughts, our energy and thoughts have forces, and we need to watch the things that we're thinking and the law of attraction and how to bring things in. There was an amazing experiment that was done in terms of quantum physics, where since Einstein, everybody has been arguing, how do these energy particles move? Do they move as waves or do they move as like dots? How, well, it both. But what's been amazing is there have been some experiments that they've done where if you and I were in a room doing this together, what do you see? You go, oh, I see dots. And I go, no, 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 I see waves. And you go, okay, let's trade glasses. And you go, nope, I still see dots. And I'm going, nope, I still see waves, because we're creating part of what we're seeing in terms of the energy. So they both exist. But you talk about the power to create your own future, whatever you want that to look like. And you're talking about this a very, very base level of, is it dots or is it waves? To say you can really impact exactly what your reality is looking like, what your future is going to look like. You really do get to be the architect of what you want to create. But it also goes into the psychology to know that we all have our different blocks along the way. But when you're intuitive and you work on that, you go, at least you understand this is a block. This isn't the universe saying, no, this is a block. What do I need to learn? And what information do I need? And we have all that inside of us if we listened, if we paid attention.
And being open to learn, like you just say, saying, oh, okay, this isn't it. What do I need to learn to get there? Or,
Yes. And
yeah.
so maybe there's a different way to be looking at this. And like I said, and I've been doing this for years and years and years and years, and I'm still doing it, because we're human. And that's why when I talk about fireflies, I talk about a firefly as a human being, as someone who sees beyond what is, to go, okay, this is what's happening. I can accept that, but I want something better. They see beyond what is to what can be. Why can't we be doing A, B, or C? And then they take action to create that better reality. And just by taking that action, I call it jumping out on the firefly path, not only do they begin changing and transforming the world, they're giving permission to everyone else who has their hopes and dreams and wishes sitting on the side of the path to go, I can jump on and I can take action too. And, imagine if, well, more and more of us did that and started shining brighter. And then the next thing that I find is, once people actually start doing that, people tell you to dampen down your lights. You're too big, but you're too much, and your light is too much. And I, a lot of times, will hand out sunglasses and I'll say, someone says you're too much or your energy's too big or your light's too bright, you hand them sunglasses. If my light's too bright for your eyes, put these on because I'm not damping down my light.
Yay. Well, I'm so happy for you too. I feel like you created a safe space for your intuition and
Yes.
this beautiful
Yeah.
book.
And still
Yeah.
working on
Like you said, that's part of being human.
it.
Well,
Yes.
tell us all the best place to connect with you and your work.
All right. So I have the easiest place is I have a website. It's just www.extraordinaryfireflies.com. And on that website, you can connect across social media. But the biggest thing is there's a download that's 5 lessons, flying lessons for fireflies, how to start
Yay.
doing that right now. And when you download the handout, it puts you on an email list that once a week I send out just a short blurb of something for encouragement or inspiration, because I think we all need that to keep going. And I've gotten wonderful, wonderful emails back from that saying, thank you so much. It just really hit the nail on the head. And it's like, sometimes you guys need to understand I'm writing what I need to hear. So I'm just sharing it with everyone else. But on my flying lessons for fireflies, one of the final exercises that I have is working on intuition. And it's doing
Okay.
something as simple as going to the grocery store. How many people have you been with, or you do a yoga class, or you're talking to people and they go, "Oh, I'm so aligned and I'm so calm." Okay, well, then let's stop at the grocery store on our way home. Okay. And as soon as they get into traffic, you hear, "That idiot, that who he just cut me off and he did." Well, what happened to that alignment? So I use a grocery store to say, when you go into a grocery store, how aware of you of what's going on? Are you there just to shop for what you need? Do you notice other things? Do you notice other people? If there's a cart that's in the middle of an aisle, do you push it aside? Do you scream, "Excuse me"? Or do you find another aisle and say, "I can go around another way"? Because the intuition, we begin with being aware of ourselves. And that's what I start with of the yoga pose, Tadasana, the mountain pose. They say this is the most important pose. And it's checking in with yourself throughout the day. How am I from head to toe? How am I feeling? What's going on? And that's how we know when those little tells are that are those butterflies in your stomach, or maybe you get a twitch in an eye, or something's going on with we've all got different tells to know what they are. I actually was working with a colleague and I said, "You're really snarky this afternoon. What's going on?" And he says, "My gosh, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I have a headache. I didn't even realize I had a headache." And it's like, we got to start from the beginning. How could you not know? This is checking in with yourself. And once you do that, then it's how aware are you of that world around you? If somebody's at the end of an aisle, they need help getting something down from a top grocery shelf. Would you be aware of that? And would you step in to help them? Start paying attention to yourself, and then start paying attention to how you interact with the rest of the world.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation.
Oh, thank you. This has been great. I really appreciate your having me.
Thank you for joining me on Intuitive Wisdom. If this episode brought you clarity or inspiration, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. It truly helps others find this space. And if someone you love, you could use a shift in energy, share this episode with them. You never know what might resonate. For more, explore my frequency reset service, tune into more episodes, or begin the journey through my book, all at deliciousease.com. That's DELICIOUSEASE.com. All right, until next time, trust your energy, honor your space, and keep coming home to yourself.